Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and this is the component overview for Sword and Sorcery, the Kickstarter edition. We're going to be seeing some Kickstarter items in here, as well as what you can potentially purchase at retail as well in the future. So I'm going to be going over all the components. The very purpose of this video is to give you guys an idea of what I think of the components, the quality, and just everything within the game itself. This is not going to talk about rules or how to play the game or anything along those lines. We are going to leave that for the solo setup and also for the playthrough. This is just going to go over the components and the miniatures and the cards and the different exploration parts of the dungeon, all that good stuff. Okay, let's start off with a couple things here. Very first off, you're seeing in front of you a large pile of miniatures. So I'm going to go into specifics on what you're seeing here, but there's some from some of the extra expansions that you can gather. Right here, you're seeing a lineup of miniatures across the Kickstarter, as well as what's included in the retail box, as well as some stuff in the back there. There is more. This box has a full top here, as well as a separate section underneath. I've started to organize things, and I can talk a little bit about that as we go. For Kickstarter backers, Wave 2 is currently held up and will be coming shortly, and will be predominantly full of cards and paper product type stuff. Everything miniature wise has already been received by the backers to this point or is in transit. So it's left to be known whether or not everything will fit into the main box, but I can tell you as of right now, everything miniature wise and card wise I can get into this main box, even leaving the trays. And that speaks to the trays that they've actually created for the game and how they've set that up. I like it. I may not even need to get an insert for this. I could probably make do with this somehow. And I'm not going to go over how that's going to work, but I'm going to talk about the different miniatures, at least to start this video out. So first off, what you're going to see here in front of you is a whole bunch of wonderful, wonderful miniatures. Now, what you're looking at right here is a handful of about 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually it ends, where does it end? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's right. It ends right here. So essentially these 5 right here, these soul gems, the game is a 1 to 5 player game. So these are the 5 leading characters. We have what is an archer elf over here who can transform into a wolf. So there's an additional character for that. Anywhere where I've got miniatures touching that close, it means that there's a possible transformation that character can either turn into or out of as they feel free to do so. But as you can see here, there are some things that came out of the box that I was a little bit kind of like about. But you know what, with miniatures, I've gotten used to it. You can see here, even with the Paladin, his sword is quite bent. Again, not a knock against the miniature in itself. The quality of the miniature, as you can see, is pretty impressive. Even the engravings on the shield, for instance, are extremely deep. Like, you'll be able to paint that. If you go into his armor, there's going to be no real concern there for painters who really want to put their touch on it. And they've got really nice, crisp edges on the miniatures as well to really give you that effect. You may not even want to paint these, but I think a large majority of people are going to want to. What you're also noticing is not only a lineup of heroes here, but you're noticing this light blue miniature behind it. Now, these are going to be something that will likely be an expansion when this game goes to retail, but these are considered ghost form characters of the miniature. So in other words, when you're playing through the game and a character happens to pass away, die, or whatever, these characters are immortal. The idea behind the game is that they're immortal and they live on through a spirit or a ghost, which still can actually aid the existing alive characters in the game, even when you're knocked out. And I love that because there's so many miniature games where you play it, and as soon as that character's dead, you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs until the particular scenario is over. With this, you can actually still aid in a potential victory even while dead. That's really cool. The other really cool thing is the choice of color. So I really appreciate Arius Games going ahead and giving them that light blue touch. Also, meaning if you don't want to paint them, you don't have to. You can just focus on the main ones, color them up really nice, leave these as they are, and it gives you almost that World of Warcraft kind of, you've been killed off and you're in a spirit form kind of situation. And that's kind of, I think, what they were driving towards. Not necessarily World of Warcraft, that's the best thing I can relate it to, but I do like that coloring. So That's really cool. And the only reason I'm mentioning these 6 right now is because up to about here is what you get in the base game. In terms of extra characters you're going to see here, I can't really speak to that because I don't know how they're going to break those extra characters out into expansions in the future. They may bundle them, they may not. That I cannot tell you. So the first thing here that I'm going to mention is there is one expansion called Volcair and Ominar, if I'm even pronouncing that correctly. I'm probably butchering it, but that's this guy here, and this is likely to be an expansion in the future as well. You can see these guys' miniatures are very crisp, they look extremely nice, and they come with these 2 guys along with it, which I imagine are elementals and stuff like that. There's 2 soul gems that accompany this particular pack, and again, I don't know how these will be packaged retail, but you can see the detail in those guys. They're really, really nice. No complaints there. Again, there's going to be a little bit of having to heat up the plastic in order, and then doing some adjusting in order to cool down. These ones don't seem to be majorly effective. Surprisingly, other heroes like this with a whip are incredibly fine. And it's shocked me that these ones are actually okay when this is such a small piece of plastic and very thin, whereas a heavier sword here is already bent so drastically. So I will be taking these to some hot water, readjusting, and then putting cold water. You can also see here on a standard bearer, or a flag banner bearer, I don't know what his name is exactly, but you can see there's a massive bend there in the ghost one. There's even a little bit of a curve on this one. So, you know, but other ones are fine. You can get you got a sword here on this particular character and it's perfectly flat. So again, overall, I am not concerned whatsoever about the small bends. This is the biggest bend character that I got, and she's kind of on a massive angle compared to her ghost form. So you can see she's kind of tipping off to the left there. But again, it's just because the miniature is based on a single a single point. And so what's going to need to happen is we're going to have to just adjust her. That shouldn't really be all that hard. And typically you just kind of go a little bit past where you want her to be, and then when you set it in cold water after it's been doused in hot, it should set and rest in exactly the spot you want it to be. In terms of names of these guys, I'm going to do my best here to kind of talk you through them. So Bjorn and Samira are another 2 pack expansion that came with this as well, and it looks like I don't know exactly what she is, but she's some type of shaman potentially or something along those lines, but she can transform herself into a bear form, so she has her soul gem. Also with the soul gems, they are very, very unique. I like the way that they snap together, so they're very easy. They have one little plastic prong that goes to the middle, and on the other side you put a cap. Essentially one side is chaos, and the other side is law. And some of them won't be just like that, but essentially you've got a good and kind of an evil side. But some of them aren't just law or chaos, they can be something different. There might be different terminology. We got a whole lineup of heroes here to choose from. This one here is able to transform into what appears to be like I believe she is in, this one, what is her name? All right, maybe I won't go by her name. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just kind of run down the row really quick and see if I can go over this. This, of course, may end up needing to be a 2-part series because there's quite a bit to this game. We're also going to have to touch on the enemy figures as well. So the elf over here, to start it off, I guess, his name is Legdon, and his wolf. I'm going to butcher some of these names, by the way. The paladin here is Thorgar, and Ariel is just beside him right here. And then after that, you've got the Paladin the Rogue. So I don't know their names, but the Paladin is right here. This is the Rogue, from what I'm understanding. You've got the Demon Witch Hunters, the one we were talking about here, that can turn into a kind of a werewolfish type form. You've got the Blade Master Bard character kind of right there. Then you've got the Berserker Slayer and a Kickstarter exclusive standard bearer Warlord character here. So this one is one of the items that will not be likely available at a future time because this one is Kickstarter exclusive. But the thing, I will talk about that in a second as well, but this game does a really good job of not taking too many. They gave us Kickstarter exclusives, but not enough to make you want to not even purchase the game at retail. They did it very smart, and we'll talk about that in a bit. The Captain is right here and it's a Captain Pirate mix along with the Barbarian Dreadlord mix there. I don't know what they do in terms, but they both have their own soul gems for them. And then, of course, we already talked about her. and we talked about them. This is more so the Vastrius Lair expansion. I could be even pronouncing or butchering that particular expansion name as well. But this is the miniature horde that you get. You get this incredible, massive miniature here, which is like a four-headed... sorry, I said four-headed dragon before. This is a five-headed dragon, and it is huge and has tons of detail, and it is heavy. I don't know if you can hear that. It's got tons of weight. And it also has lots and lots of detail. Like, the painters are going to go crazy enjoying spending time making that thing look nasty. And the cool thing is too, is if you don't want to paint this stuff, it's color patterned so that it flows with the difficulty of these minions and enemies as you play the game. So you could just play it straight without painting anything. And I really like the fact there's some color tones in the plastic. That's awesome. It really helps out because it makes the people that don't want to bother with the painting their life so much easier. Okay, so we're not going to talk about the enemies just yet. We're going to talk about some doors and chests. You can see them here behind. These doors and chests are just doors and chests. Again, you may or may not look at these when they come to retail and say you need them. You may have doors and chests from other games, but I can tell you they do look very cool and they are very thematic. They also have the SNS logo built right into them, so you can see that there, but they also would be really easy to paint, and they have some substantial weight and are very good base-wise. They're not going to be tipping over on you. I mean, of course, I just smacked it over, but like, even when they wobble, they're going to stay kind of planted. They're solid. You won't have issues with them falling over during the gameplay. Where I've had game doors and other ones that are very easy to knock over. You've also got these chests. Now, they may not seem that surprising because, hey, who doesn't have thousands of chests possibly with their miniature games or with just any games in general? But the really cool thing I liked about this one is the base is hollow. And what's really cool about this is there are tokens in this game that you can actually fit inside the chest. So when you put it on a particular location on the map, it will actually have the token that you will receive when you crack open the chest already inside of it. That's cool. And the other thing that's really cool is they didn't put a lid opening on it, because if they had it would have been fidgety. It probably would have broken. This is just a really smart way, and also probably reduce costs for them not making it solid. But just cool to be able to quickly access whatever it is you break into during the gameplay. Very cool, like it, and I'm a fan of that. So far, we've talked about all the soul gem kind of things. Again, we had to put them all together and make sure that you put the two correct sides facing out, always with a picture like this on one side and then the opposite on the other side. One being kind of, like I said, law, one's chaos, but not all are like that. The way to determine how to put these on is if I was to pull these two apart, which I won't do right now, or maybe I will, just to make life easy. So I'm going to pull this apart. In the middle here, you'll notice there is a center thing that says right there. It's not really hard to see, but you can see it says his name and it says chaos. So that means you've got the two sides, and this one over here says, if it wants to focus, law. So essentially, when you're putting them together, you're obviously just doing it so that your character has them, your character pictures on either side. Doesn't matter which side you put them on, and after that, you're referencing either or. Okay, so I'm going to leave that broken up, like I just destroyed it. They come attached and they go back on, and you have to actually put some effort into pulling them apart. So there's not too much concern there. The next thing I want to talk about is, let's go talk about the dice, okay? So I've got some Kickstarter exclusive dice which add about double. So normally when the base game, you would receive 4 blue and 4 red. Well, I got an extra set, essentially, for Kickstarting it. So now I've got this many. It's going to help when we're rolling dice and playing the game. Dice quality is great. I had some comments I even see on BGG that people had issues with their dice where symbols were possibly printed on top of other symbols, or there was issues like that. I checked every single one of these and didn't have a single defect. So I imagine, obviously, the people with the defective ones are voicing their opinions, and that's perfectly valid, and I believe Arius is taking care of any of those issues. The next thing that I thought was really cool, and again, this is a dice. This is from what I understand, you get one of these in the retail, or will get one in the retail, and one of these is Kickstarter exclusive. That's why I have 2. The really cool thing with this game is getting some coins. This is actually the very first game. Surprisingly, I don't own Scythe yet, but I will be getting that eventually. The first game that I have metal coins with, and it looks fantastic. I don't know if you guys can see the detail on these coins, but they are incredible. They look great. They have a nice wear. They look like they're worn off. I'm a huge fan. This is something that I would probably pick up in the store retail if I don't own it. It just adds so much to the game. You do get your standard kind of cardboard coins here, and they're okay. I mean, they'll do the job and stuff like that. They're like any game everyone's used to in terms of getting coins and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it is really cool to actually be able to get some treasure and feel like you actually have treasure in your hands. There's also, I believe, one for every single one that you get in a cardboard form in the retail box. So you're not being gypped by buying the metal coins. So that's that kind of component. I'm going to try to do my best here to put these away fairly quickly, but some of these are really small. So the next thing I kind of want to talk about is probably just moving towards the cards, and actually, no, let's do the map tiles next. The map tiles are already out and ready to go, so how about we do that? So I'm going to throw all these to the side. And of course, with the map tiles, I was able, like I said, I was able to get all this stuff in the box without issue. So that was one of the big positives. I've gone ahead and kind of organized them in a square pattern. So when you go ahead and you put them back in the box, they're actually not that bad. You can actually get them back in a square formation and land them right on top, and you're fine. There's one kind of wide tile. One of the things I'll say about these tiles is they're great quality. The art on them is awesome, and they're very, very bright. I hope you can see from the video here, but again, I've got black kind of cloth on the table here. Sorry about that bump. But they really do pop. So I don't know what it'll be like when you put it on your table, but essentially the bright or the level of detail on these is really nice. So you can see, like, and we talked about this in the unboxing video, there is really, really minor details in these particular tiles, and I really like them. And I'm not just saying I really like them because there's only a handful of tiles in certain games that I really have enjoyed. Like Mansions of Madness has that pop where you're walking through the mansion, you really feel like you're in that mansion. This really does feel like you're kind of moving around in all of these really cool crypt type areas. You've got smaller ones here that have little fire, like torches kind of going on. They're illuminated different colors, so you can kind of feel the light patterns. I think there's a few in here, tiles wise, that have they even have like this one here looks like it has like a snake on it. It's just, they went the extra mile with adding a little bit more flavor to the rooms. And they also went ahead and made these little, essentially what are considered sight lines, so that you can go ahead and know what you have line of sight to and what is a new area versus another area and that kind of thing. But there's lots of detail. Like you can see, like there's a skeleton there inside, you know, coming out of that crack in the floor there. It's just really cool. So they did a great job, and they're thick. And I mean, with most cardboard tiles, they're always fine because they're usually make them thick enough that they're all right. But I'm really happy with these. I went over them and I didn't look at them and say, well, you know, they just tossed these together in their spare time. They really did you know, go the extra mile to think about building something nice. Now, if we want to talk about what's inside the first tray, I'll grab that. Now, this is where it gets a little bit difficult. There's a lot of monsters that are in here as well as in the base box. You'll see this is kind of the bottom of the box. You've got the cards, they all fit. I've even sleeved a large majority of them. What I'm going to be doing when I go forward is there's these cards here that I'm not sleeving every one of. There's a whole bunch of cards. I think it's like 8 to 10 for every single character, and they're ability cards essentially, I believe. What I'm going to be doing strategically in order to avoid having an insane amount of sleeve cards that don't fit is I'm putting one pack of 50 sleeves in the box, and that's enough to have up to 5 characters have all of their particular heroes that they select sleeved for the game, and that's it. And also it allows me some flexibility to add cards in here. As you can see, I can turn these sleeve ones, even though they don't fit straight up and down, they fit sideways, and I still have all kinds of space for whatever's incoming in wave 2. I can also keep this sleeve pack in the box. Really, really handy. Now what I've done here is I've gone ahead and I've actually bagged things up. This is a really simplistic game too. It seems like a lot. I will admit, when you first punch out the boards, you go, oh my gosh, there's so many tokens here. How do you break this apart? And there's quite a bit. What I've done is, you can see as they pile up here, what I've done is just bag things by what makes sense. That's the best thing to do, bag it by style. So for instance, this is my bag of tokens that I do not understand. It's like the tokens that kind of appear like special one-off ability or quest tokens. I put them all in one bag. I took every single token that had a heart on it, and there's multiple of those. Based on this reference sheet, which also came in the box here, you can see there's multiple heart icons, and I just said, you know what, let's dump them all in one bag because they're all probably condition based. Done. Then I went ahead and I grabbed these ones here and I said, you know what, they're all shaped the same, in a bag. Same thing, you just kind of logically put them together as they fit. Your hindrances in terms of where you can move and stuff like that over walls and whatnot, and what you can and can't walk, or what causes an extra movement point. Coins obviously bagged up. It's really not difficult. So that's what I'm doing for now. And of course, and you got like your kind of effect. So anything with a number on it, I put it in a bag. So really, once we get to playing, if I need something that has an effect, I know it's coming from this bag. And of course, you get your health here. So it really isn't that tough, but it looks crazy when you first get the game because you're going, oh my gosh, I don't know what these tokens are. And there's like 8 or 10, 12 different sheets of stuff. But really, I think it's not that bad. These are all the tokens right here. They fit into like 3 or 4 pockets. When I put it all back in the box, they fit even better. Anyway, we're not gonna. I'll talk about the cards. I may have to talk about the cards in another video. Let's talk about the player boards, because there is a difference here in the player boards from the Kickstarter edition versus the retail edition. And I'm going to show you one thing here that's kind of important. On this Kickstarter edition components kind of log, for everyone that was in on the Kickstarter, they're able to go through here and find out what's in their hands currently. So everything that's in their hands does not have an asterisk beside it. Everything that does is coming in wave 2. You'll also see right up here Kickstarter special components, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this means that the card holder punch board, the critical hit bag, the 4 additional punch boards, and the 11 deluxe hero sheets, which is a bunch of these, are all specific to the Kickstarter version and will not be going to retail from what I understand. Now there is one other really cool thing that I'm going to grab here that came in the game, and it has to be shown because this is an incredible this is an incredible addition, and this is one of the things that actually came in the Kickstarter version of this game, and I don't know if it'll be available because it says card holder punch board, right? So my thoughts are no, but this is really just a cardboard. It's about as thick as the map tiles, but it holds more cards. It holds your encounter, your enemy powers, your treasures, your traps, and of course all kinds of items of different varying abilities. It even has a nice little emblem to tell you what type of cards are supposed to go in what slot if you don't know, which is just amazing. So you can go, oh, treasure card has a sword, there's the sword, pretty cool. So when it's on the table and you want to clean it up, you pick the whole thing up and walk away with it. This I can't get back in the box, that's for sure. But I don't mind just leaving these cards on that tray and on a shelf. So that's that. We are running kind of low on time here. So what I'm going to do is, instead of going into this, I'm going to wait until the next video. So in part 2, what we're going to do is I'm going to clear away everything we've talked about, and I'm going to bring out all the enemy figures onto this area here. We'll talk about them. We'll take a look at them. I'm also going to go over this stack of player boards to show you what that's like, the ones that would come retail and also the ones in the Kickstarter edition. We will also take a look at all the wonderful cards underneath. There is some that are already in mini sleeves, as I talked about. There's also some tarot-sized cards up here in the corner that give you an idea of how to handle your, essentially it's the AI for your enemies as you play the game. So we're going to talk about that in the next episode. Again, in terms of what I'm thinking, my final thoughts on this to this point is, in what I've seen and kind of getting this out of the box and getting it back into the box, I'm blown away. I'm very happy. I really don't think there was any drop in quality along the way here. And so far, besides just a couple miniature fixes I have to do, nothing's broken, nothing seems cheap, and I'm not missing anything. Everything feels like you're going to get your money's worth. It seems very well done. And on top of it, they're coming out with apps. There's a music soundtrack that accompanies the game that you can purchase. There's a new quest editor that they're releasing. Incredible stuff. Anyway, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks again for watching. And as always, keep on rolling solo.